The Ford Mustang has always been the epitome of American muscle, but some of its most badass models were retired far too soon. Imagine a lineup of Mustangs that combined blistering speed, precision handling, and iconic style. Machines so impressive, they could have shaped the Mustang legacy in ways we can only dream about. These 8 incredible Mustangs pushed performance limits but were cut short before their full potential was realized. Let's explore the magic about each of them separately. Number 1. The K-Code Mustang. The K-Code Mustang, introduced in 1964, was a groundbreaking model that redefined what performance meant in an American car. While the original Mustang was already a hit with its sporty design and affordable price, the K-Code version took things to the next level. The secret to its success lay in its engine, a 289 cubic inch V8 that produced 271 horsepower at a high-revving 6,000 RPM. For its time, this was a huge deal. Most cars on the road didn't have anywhere near that kind of power, especially in a relatively small and lightweight body like the Mustang. What made the K-Code even more special was its exclusivity. It wasn't just any Mustang. It was a car for enthusiasts who wanted something more aggressive. It only came with a 4-speed manual transmission, which meant drivers needed to know what they were doing behind the wheel. This wasn't a car you could casually drive around, it demanded your full attention. And for those who loved the thrill of driving, that's exactly what made it so appealing. The K-Code Mustang also came with a special handling package that included beefed-up suspension components. This helped the car stay planted in corners, giving it an edge over the competition. And then there were the 15-inch wheels, painted black and stripped of hubcaps, which gave the car a no-frills track-ready look. It was understated, yet oozed coolness, making it one of the most visually striking Mustangs of its era. But the K-Code Mustang wasn't just about performance, it also signaled a shift in the muscle car culture. Up until then, muscle cars were mostly big, heavy vehicles with massive engines. The K-Code Mustang was smaller, more agile, and proved that you didn't need a gigantic car to have serious performance. It was nimble enough for city driving but powerful enough for the track. This duality made it versatile and exciting. Owning a K-Code Mustang was like having a secret weapon. From the outside, it might have looked like any other Mustang, but once you fired up that engine and felt the power surge beneath you, it was clear this was something special. It wasn't just a car, it was an experience. Number 2. Shelby GT350, the street-legal race car. If the K-Code Mustang was impressive, the Shelby GT350 was on another level entirely. The Shelby GT350 was first introduced in 1965. When Carroll Shelby got his hands on the Mustang, he transformed it from a powerful street car into something that could compete on the track and win. The Shelby GT350, first introduced in 1965, took everything great about the original Mustang and dialed it up to 11. The first thing that set the GT350 apart was its race-tuned suspension. While the K-Code Mustang handled well, the GT350 was designed for serious cornering. Shelby Americans swapped out the stock suspension for stiffer springs and shocks, making the car more responsive at high speeds. This wasn't just a muscle car, it was a true performance machine, capable of taking on curves with the grace of a sports car. But of course, the real star of the show was the engine. Shelby took the same 289 cubic inch V8 from the K-Code Mustang and tuned it to deliver a massive 306 horsepower. This was serious power, even by today's standards. And because the GT350 weighed in at just over 2,700 pounds, it had an incredible power-to-weight ratio. This meant it could accelerate faster and handle better than most of its competition. The GT350 wasn't just a car that performed well, it looked the part too. The fastback design gave it a sleek, aggressive stance, while the iconic racing stripes running down the center of the car let everyone know this was no ordinary Mustang. It also came with lightweight alloy wheels, sticky performance tires, and a race-inspired interior with minimal frills. This was a driver's car, through and through. One of the most interesting things about the GT350 is how close it came to being a full-fledged race car. In fact, some versions were built specifically for the track, with even more stripped-down interiors and higher performance upgrades. But even the street-legal version was about as close as you could get to driving a race car on the road. Driving the Shelby GT350 wasn't just about going fast, it was about precision, control, and pure, unadulterated fun. Every time you got behind the wheel, you felt connected to the road in a way that few other cars could offer. It's no wonder that the GT350 has become one of the most sought-after Mustangs in history, representing the peak of American muscle and performance. Simply put, the Shelby GT350 wasn't just a Mustang, it was a masterpiece of engineering, a car that pushed the boundaries of what a street car could be. Even today, it stands as one of the most badass Mustangs ever built, a legend that will never fade. Number 3. The 1978 King Cobra Mustang II. The 1978 King Cobra Mustang II is one of those cars that gets a lot of mixed reactions. On one hand, it's often dismissed as one of the weakest Mustangs in terms of performance, especially compared to its muscle-bound predecessors. But when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that the King Cobra Mustang II actually deserves a lot more credit than it gets. In fact, it's one of the most badass models in Mustang history, but maybe not for the reasons you'd expect. By 1973, Lee Iacocca, the man behind the original Mustang, had a tough decision to make. Gas prices were skyrocketing, and consumers were starting to prioritize fuel efficiency over raw horsepower. The original Mustang had gotten larger and heavier over the years, so Ford needed to make a shift if they wanted to keep the Mustang relevant. Enter the Mustang II, a smaller, more fuel-efficient version of the beloved pony car. Now, I get it. The Mustang II wasn't exactly a beast on the track. By the time the King Cobra rolled around in 1978, it took a sluggish 10 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour. That's a far cry from the speed demons of the late 60s. But here's the thing, the King Cobra marked the end of an era, and it did so with style. It came with a 5.0-litre V8, which, while not the most powerful engine Ford had ever put in a Mustang, gave it some decent grunt for the time. And let's not forget the wild hood graphics, which were some of the most over-the-top designs ever slapped on a Mustang, second only to the Pontiac Trans Am. The King Cobra wasn't about breaking speed records, it was about keeping the Mustang alive in a time when most muscle cars were dying out. The Challenger and the Camaro? They didn't make it through the 70s without disappearing for a while, but the Mustang did, and a big part of that was thanks to the Mustang II. It may not have been the fastest, but it was practical, affordable, and still managed to keep the Mustang spirit intact. What makes the 1978 King Cobra Mustang II so badass isn't just its place in Mustang history, it's the fact that it adapted to survive. It's the reason we still have Mustangs today. Plus, it's become a favorite for custom builds because of its lightweight independent front suspension and rack and pinion steering, which are a dream for street rod enthusiasts. So yeah, it might not be the car you'd choose to race down the quarter mile, but the King Cobra Mustang II is a survivor, and that's pretty badass in my book. Number 4. The 1993 Ford Mustang Cobra R. The 1993 Ford Mustang Cobra R stands out as one of the most badass Mustangs ever built, and not just because of its rarity. With only 107 vibrant red hatchbacks produced, it's one of the rarest Mustangs ever conceived. But beyond its exclusivity, the Cobra R was an uncompromising track-ready machine, stripped down to its essentials and built for serious driving enthusiasts. This was the last of the Fox body Mustangs, and it marked the first offering from Ford's Special Vehicle Team, SVT. The Cobra R wasn't about luxury or comfort. It was about pure, unfiltered performance. Ford's SVT engineers made sure of that. They took out anything that didn't contribute to speed or handling, turning the Cobra R into a dedicated racer. The car came without a radio, air conditioning, rear seats, and even rear carpeting. The sound-deadening material was also removed, making the Cobra R lighter and more raw. Manual windows, door locks, and mirrors were used instead of the heavier power-operated options, and bucket seats from the Mustang LX were swapped in to save weight. All in all, around 450 pounds were shaved off the car, making it lighter and faster. But while most of the weight was stripped away, some crucial hardware was added back in to make it track-ready. Larger brake rotors improved stopping power, while strut tower and subframe bracing stiffened the chassis for better handling. Adjustable dampers, stiffer springs, a larger radiator, and coolers for the power steering and engine oil were also included, ensuring the car could take a beating on the track without breaking a sweat. Under the hood, the Cobra R packed a 4.9-litre V8 engine, pushing out 235 horsepower. While that may not sound like much by today's standards, it was more than enough for the lightweight Fox body platform, especially with the car's race-focused setup. Every component was fine-tuned for performance, from the suspension to the brakes, making it an absolute joy to drive on a track. The 1993 Cobra R isn't just badass because of what it could do though, it's badass because of what it represented. This was a car built for enthusiasts, people who didn't care about creature comforts or fancy gadgets. They wanted a Mustang that was raw, aggressive, and focused on one thing, going fast. And Ford delivered exactly that. The Cobra R would see two more versions in 1995 and 2000, but the original 1993 model holds a special place in Mustang history. It was the end of an era for the Fox body Mustangs, but also the beginning of something new and exciting from Ford's SVT team. For anyone who values performance over everything else, the 1993 Ford Mustang Cobra R is one of the most badass Mustangs ever made. Number 5. 1969. Boss 302. The 1969 Boss 302 Mustang is undeniably one of the most badass models to ever roll off Ford's assembly line. Created to meet the homologation requirements for the Trans Am racing series, the Boss 302 was born out of a fierce rivalry with Chevrolet's Z28 Camaro. Ford needed a track-ready machine to take on its competitors, and they delivered a car that wasn't just a road beast, but also a racing icon. Under the hood of the Boss 302 was a high-revving 5.0-liter V8 engine that was specifically designed for high performance. This engine, known for its power and precision, cranked out 290 horsepower, which might not seem like much by today's standards, but in 1969, it was a serious number, especially considering how it was built for cornering as much as speed. The power wasn't just about raw acceleration. The Boss 302 excelled at handling, a key feature that set it apart from other muscle cars of the era. With a racing-tuned suspension, stiff springs and sway bars, the Boss 302 was designed to hug corners and stay planted on the track. Visually, the 1969 Boss 302 is pure muscle car perfection. It sported a distinctive, aggressive look with a blacked-out hood, bold side stripes, and a rear spoiler that gave it an unmistakable presence. The wide stance, combined with the racing stripes and classic fastback shape, made it stand out among its peers, not just as a car, but as a symbol of power and performance. The shaker hood scoop only added to the intimidation factor, letting everyone know this Mustang meant business. The Boss 302 was more than just a street car. It was a direct result of Ford's racing heritage. Parnelli Jones, one of the most famous drivers of the era, drove a Boss 302 to win the Trans Am Championship in 1970, cementing its status as a legendary track car. This direct connection to racing gives the Boss 302 a unique place in Mustang history, not just as a showpiece, but as a proven performance machine. On a personal note, the 1969 Boss Mustang has to be one of the best-looking classic Mustangs out there. It may be a controversial opinion, especially with competition from the likes of the GT350 and the Notchback GT, but the Boss 302's sleek, aggressive design and track-inspired performance make it a standout in every way. The car's legacy lives on, and the work done to restore and showcase these models, like at the members' meeting presented by Audrain Motorsport, keeps its spirit alive for new generations to appreciate. Simply put, the 1969 Boss 302 wasn't just a car, it was a symbol of Ford's commitment to performance and racing excellence. Its combination of power, design, and handling makes it one of the most badass Mustangs ever made. Number 6. 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. The 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429 isn't just one of the most badass Mustangs ever, it's an absolute legend in muscle car history. Originally built to meet NASCAR's homologation rules, the Boss 429 was a street-legal powerhouse that packed Ford's most massive V8 engine into a Mustang, creating a rare and ferocious beast that still turns heads today. Ford's aim with the Boss 429 was simple: to dominate NASCAR. The 429 cubic inch V8 engine was designed specifically for the track, but to meet the rules, they had to offer it in a street-legal version. The result was a limited production Mustang with a monstrous 7.0-liter engine that delivered 375 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque, though it was widely believed that those numbers were conservative. When pushed to full throttle, the Boss 429 could crank out far more power, making it a true force to be reckoned with on the road. Fitting the massive 429 engine into a Mustang wasn't a simple task. Ford turned to Carcraft, a specialty outfit in Michigan, to help modify the car's front suspension to make room for the oversized engine. These modifications were essential for handling the sheer size and power of the 429, and they transformed the Mustang into something truly special. The Boss 429 was more than just a Mustang with a big engine. It was a precision machine built with one purpose: to win races. On the street, the Boss 429 was a cantankerous beast. It wasn't the smoothest ride unless you were hitting full throttle, where the car really came alive. This made it somewhat difficult to drive in normal conditions, but for those who craved pure, unadulterated power, it was perfect. The car's design was also kept relatively simple compared to other flashy muscle cars of the time, but its understated look only added to its allure. It didn't need to scream for attention. Its presence alone was enough to command respect. What makes the Boss 429 so special is how it combines brute force with a touch of rarity. Only 859 models were built in 1969, with an additional 499 produced in 1970, making it one of the most exclusive Mustangs ever made. This limited production has made it a sought-after collector's item, with prices skyrocketing in recent years as enthusiasts recognize its place in Mustang lore. Personally, I think the Boss 429 is one of the coolest Mustangs ever created. There's something undeniably thrilling about a car that was built to meet NASCAR standards and then unleashed on the streets. Its raw power, combined with its rarity, gives it an almost mythical status among Mustang fans. Whether it's the sound of that massive engine roaring to life or its simple, menacing design, the Boss 429 embodies everything that makes a Mustang truly badass. In the world of classic American muscle, the 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429 stands tall. It was more than just a car. It was Ford's statement that they were ready to dominate on the track and the streets, and they did so in unforgettable fashion. Number 7. 1985.5 Ford Mustang SVO. When it comes to badass Mustangs, the 1985.5 Ford Mustang SVO deserves a special place in history. While the 1980s Mustang GT, with its iconic 5.0-liter V8, gets a lot of love, the Mustang SVO stands out as the rebel in the lineup, a model that dared to be different. With its turbocharged four-cylinder engine, unique design, and track-tuned suspension, the SVO wasn't just about raw power. It was about handling, innovation, and proving that a Mustang didn't need a V8 to be fast and thrilling. What made the Mustang SVO so special? First, let's talk about the engine. Under the hood was a 2.3-liter turbocharged four-cylinder that produced 205 horsepower. While that might not sound like a lot by today's standards, it was impressive for its time, especially considering this was the era of emissions regulations and fuel economy concerns. Ford's Special Vehicle Operations (SVO) team designed this engine to be light, nimble, and responsive, giving the SVO a distinct advantage in handling and agility. It wasn't just about straight-line speed, it was a car that could take corners with confidence. The SVO also looked different from your typical Mustang. It had a unique ducted hood that hinted at its turbocharged heart and a two-tier rear wing that gave it a distinctive profile. These design elements weren't just for show, they improved aerodynamics and cooling, making the SVO as functional as it was cool. Compared to the more aggressive-looking V8 Mustangs of the time, the SVO had a cleaner, more refined look, but it still carried an unmistakable presence. Where the SVO really shined was in its suspension. Ford equipped it with a Coney adjustable suspension, which allowed drivers to fine-tune the handling for different driving conditions. The 1985.5 Ford Mustang SVO was a bold experiment in the Mustang lineup, and though it didn't enjoy the same sales success as the V8 models, it has earned a loyal following among fans who appreciate its uniqueness. It was a car ahead of its time, and its combination of turbocharged power, superior handling, and distinctive design make it one of the most badass Mustangs ever to hit the road. Number 8. 1969 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 500 Cobra Jet. The 1969 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 500 Cobra Jet is a Mustang that needs no introduction. Though Carroll Shelby's involvement in its creation was minimal by this point, this car's legacy is anything but small. The GT 500 Cobra Jet is one of the most badass Mustangs of all time, combining raw power with a distinctive design that sets it apart from the rest. Under the hood, the Cobra Jet featured a 428 cubic inch V8 engine that pumped out 335 horsepower and a massive 440 pound-feet of torque. Ford may have underrated this engine's performance for insurance purposes, but make no mistake, this car was a powerhouse. The Cobra Jet was designed to be street-ready, but its heart was all muscle, giving it enough raw power to hold its own against the fiercest competition of the era. Whether it was barreling down the highway or showing off at a drag strip, the Cobra Jet delivered performance that Mustang fans still drool over to this day. One of the most iconic elements of the 1969 GT500 was its aggressive styling. It was bigger and bolder than its predecessors, with an extended hood and front fenders that featured functional ram air ductwork. The car had a presence that demanded attention, with an elongated front that looked like it was ready to swallow the road whole. The unique design elements, such as the dual air scoops and rear spoiler, gave the GT500 a look that screamed performance. Even standing still, the Cobra Jet looked fast. While it may not have been the nimble, track-ready machine that earlier Shelby models were, the 1969 GT500 Cobra Jet made up for it with brute force. This Mustang wasn't about precision cornering or finesse, it was all about straight-line speed and raw power. Its 428 V8 delivered plenty of that, and when paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, it gave drivers the thrill of controlling that much muscle under the hood. It wasn't just a car, it was an experience. On a personal note, the 1969 GT500 Cobra Jet represents everything that's great about classic muscle cars. It's not just about the performance figures, though they're impressive, but the overall feeling of driving a car that looks and feels like it was built for one thing: dominance. The sound of the Cobra Jet engine, the sheer power it delivered, and the bold styling made this Mustang a legend in its own right. In a world of refined performance cars, the 1969 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 Cobra Jet remains one of the most unapologetically badass Mustangs ever built. It's a car that wasn't afraid to embrace its muscle car roots, and that's what makes it so special to this day. Although the unmistakable styles makes them one of the most iconic Mustangs ever built. Though they may no longer tear up the tracks, their legacy lives on in the hearts of enthusiasts and the annals of muscle car history. These 8 Mustangs will forever remain a symbol of Ford's golden era of performance.